Here's a question I get fairly often in the communities. So both in the public Telegram, but also in the premium community. And that question is, what should be done with investments that are down quite a lot? So where you bought high and where we then now fell subsequently by 80%, maybe 90%, maybe even 95%. Does it at that point in time still make sense to cut losses, right? Does it make sense even to still sell? Because the money that we get back isn't that much anyways, right? And if we were to now sell that position, we lock in our losses and we were to buy Bitcoin with that, then it's very unlikely that we're going to recover those losses anytime soon. So does it even make sense to sell something like this? I believe the answer to this is depending on what the cause of the decline was. Because I believe there's two major reasons why a token can depress that much. The first reason is tokenomics. So it might be that the team has cashed out, or it might be that there's a very aggressive staking program. It might be that the tokenomics are that poor that the value gets distributed across more and more tokens. So there's more and more tokens floating around. The supply is increasing over time, and the supply increased much, much faster than the demand did. And that's the reason why the value went down. That's the reason why the price went down. Right? So when the supply is increasing, the overall market cap is still the same, but the price went down and simply just the value is distributed across more tokens. So when suddenly the supply 10x's and you are down 90% on your investment, it might have been because you didn't stake the token, or it might have been because you are not part of the insiders that bought even earlier, that then got maybe their unlocks, their vesting periods over, that then could finally sell. Right? So you have to figure out, why did the price go down? If the price, however, did not go down because of tokenomics, and the price only went down because of, say, less attention, right? Because there is a direct connection between attention on a crypto asset and its price. When you bought at peak attention, because there was maybe some news around it, or maybe because a lot of YouTubers promoted it, etc., maybe there was a lot of trading volume at the time as well, right? Attention was very, very high, but there is a chance that now when attention is low, that it might pick up again. Then it can make sense to potentially hold for a bit longer, because there is waves in attentions, right? Sometimes meme coins simply depress by 80-90% to then simply just recover again, because it might not be that the inflation was very high. It might be still the same number of tokens that are floating. But now when the market cap dropped from, say, 100 million down to 10 million, now the market cap is so small that it might be worth it again for some people to push the token, right? To promote the token, because at the lower market caps, the percentage returns are higher. And so it's very important to figure out what the fundamental cause of the drop is. And it's even more important looking forward, as in, if the price went down because there was a lot of token inflation, we have to figure out, will there still be more token inflation in the future? Or have there already been all token unlocks? Have already all the insiders sold? Or do the insiders still hold a lot of the token?
The main problem with crypto YouTube is conflict of interest. Too many YouTubers shill garbage, promote garbage, and fill up their pockets in the background. Not this channel. Instead, there's simply the offer where I share my skills, my perspectives to you, and where I also share direct access to me, where you can ask me any questions. Feel free to check it out. The premium membership link is down below.
So some research has to be done here, right? It's not just straightforward an answer. We can just look at the price and that's it. We have to look at the overall market dynamics. We have to figure out, how will supply and demand progress over time? And if supply continues to rise, that's of course a problem. If demand simply just goes in waves and is currently very low on that wave, then it might make sense to hold, or potentially even to double down, to buy a bit more. On top of that discussion is also, of course, the overall macro environment, right? Is crypto overall expanding? Is money flowing into crypto, etc.? But when you've already held for such a long period of time, when you're already down that much, you're probably not timing the overall macro that well anyways. But it might be a hint for the future, right? It might make sense to try to buy when nobody else is interested in crypto. Because that's the problem, right? Why do most people lose? It's because most people learn about crypto when there's a lot of exposure to crypto, when traditional finance talks about crypto, when, say, the social media channels talk about crypto. When a lot of people already watch crypto because maybe Bitcoin just doubled in the last few months. When everybody looks at crypto and wants to see the current news around it, then there's also some viral spreading within the social platforms. And then suddenly all the YouTube channels get a lot of new subscribers. And then a lot of newbies enter the space. And then, unfortunately, too many people buy high. And then once the overall macro goes down, once the attention can't grow that much anymore, that's the point in time when Bitcoin goes down, but that's also then the point in time when the altcoins tend to go down even more, because there is some kind of inherent leverage effect, right? It is, as per tendency, true that when Bitcoin goes up just a little bit, that the altcoins can gain more and vice versa. It doesn't work perfectly, because normally the altcoins tend to outperform when Bitcoin has already risen, but in general, volatility tends to be higher for the smaller altcoins relative to Bitcoin. And so when the macro went down, say by 30, 40, 50%, and Bitcoin is close to its realized price again, which is currently at 31K, by the way, when we are at these kinds of levels, it might make more sense to hold when you are down with your altcoin position by 70 or 80% compared to when you're down 70 or 80% in a market that's overall growing or that's just neutral, because then again, those might be idiosyncratic movements. And those tend to be more dangerous because they tend to continue. Another way to think about this is, if you were a new investor, so would you think as a person with a complete fresh pair of eyes that now looks at this asset, would you consider buying it? Would you think that maybe there is a floor? Or would you think that this is simply just a money pit that continues to go down? If you think that most new people that look at this asset do not necessarily get euphoric about buying, and maybe it makes sense to sell, right? Because you have to think about, you probably have some kind of rose-colored glasses with your asset, right? When you're buying an asset, you want the asset to go up. And so you tend to watch content, you tend to read content that tends to confirm what you're currently thinking. So when you're now moving from very positive, very bullish to neutral, what actually might be happening in reality is that the asset went from neutral to already bearish. Because again, we tend to have a positive bias on our investments. We tend to tell ourselves a story that's more positive, that's more rose-colored compared to what actually is happening. So that's one way to think about this, right? Simply just try to step back, try to think about what might a new person think about this asset. If you were to talk about this asset with a friend of yours and he's never heard of it, would he consider buying? If the answer to this is a clear no, then probably you also shouldn't be holding that asset. If you got a new thought out of this video, feel free to give this a like. Feel free to also subscribe. I publish videos regularly. There's also a Telegram channel down below. It's 100% free. Looking very much forward to chatting with you on Telegram as well. Cheers.